to slide number 1, and I'm just moving down quickly. There's no way we're going to get through them all, but yeah, you have to be able to pace your material, especially if you're not going to see the audience again. If it's a one-time deal with that audience, you're not going to see them again. You want to make sure that there's certain things that they learn. So basically, when you go into a group, there's probably 5 or 6 points that you want to make sure you give them. And if you run out of time and you've only gotten to 3 of those points, then you probably have not prepared well enough. So you want to, give them, the most important things, and then after that, if you don't get to that material, maybe it's not so crucial. Okay. Okay. Anything else can go wrong? Yeah.
I have a question. How to not too nervous?
How to not be too nervous? Okay. Well, first of all, I'm just going to throw a couple ideas out to you. And one idea is just to be prepared. If you're prepared and you've rehearsed your speech, you're probably going to be okay. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is, why am I nervous? Why should I be nervous? I'm going up in front of a group of people. I'm giving them information that is very useful and helpful. That's a good thing, right? Why should I be nervous? Why should I be nervous about that? I'm doing a good thing for somebody. Okay? A lot of times we're nervous because we think we're going to fail, or we think we're going to look bad. All right? Yeah, right. And but I think a lot of that is just psychological. We have to tell ourselves that we're a valuable, good person. We're going to give a speech. We're going to have a good time. The audience is going to learn something, and there's nothing to be nervous about. There's other more important things in life than to be nervous about, what somebody might be thinking. And the fact is, we really don't know what people are thinking anyway. All right? We don't know if the person's judging us fairly or unfairly. I have no idea what's going in your minds right now. Okay? I have no idea. Some of you might be saying, God, I hope this guy stops talking soon. But if that's the point, that's the way it is. Now, there's also something called the spotlight effect. And the spotlight effect, again, we're looking at social psychology, and that they've done many experiments where they brought, let's say, students into a classroom that were wearing, let's say, an Adolf Hitler t-shirt. And then they left the classroom and the professor said, what kind of shirt was they wearing? What kind of t-shirt did they have on? And most students didn't know. Most people, most of my students in my lectures are probably not that focused on what I'm saying anyway. Now, I know that, I know it, I'm sorry to say it, but all the research suggests that a lot of people are thinking about other things. Yeah. But okay, how do we not be nervous? Prepare, practice, know your subject material. If you get flustered, you know what I mean by getting flustered? What if all of a sudden you just lose your train of thought? What can you do? Can you ask the audience for help? I think you can. Sometimes I'm talking about something and I forget what I'm talking about. Happens all the time, right, Mike? You guys got something to look forward to when you get a little older, okay? Forget things real fast, okay? You can ask the audience, okay, what was I just talking about? And they'll bring you back to focus, okay? Things are going to go wrong, but most people want us to succeed. Most of our audience wants us to do well. They're on our side, usually. Okay?
Did you have a situation when someone from your audience demonstrated really negative attitude?
No. No, actually, I've had several students. There was one guy I remember in Finland. Boy, he was just looking up, like he was on drugs. He really looked like he was high. He wasn't focused on anything I was saying. And I kept looking at him and I thought, God, am I that boring? This guy looks like he's off in La La Land. He just looked like he wasn't there. And I just said, well, I'm not going to look at him. I'll look at the few people that are actually paying attention to me. Okay? But yeah, there are students that are spacing out. Maybe they're, some students, we know they're smoking marijuana before the class. I can smell it. I know that one of my students is high, or maybe a bunch of them are high. Or maybe that's the only way they can get through my lecture is by smoking dope. I don't know. Okay? But, you can tell. You know that they're not there. Okay? But there's not much you can do except go on with the game plan. Okay? Now, I once was talking, again, I talk a lot about abuse, and I'm a therapist, so I was talking about sexual abuse with a particular group of students, and there was one woman in the classroom that definitely was freaking out. She was, when I started talking about this stuff, she was really having trouble. So I actually had to call a timeout. I had to get everybody out of the classroom, and I said, look, I know you're having problems here. Tell me what's going on. Now, this was a woman who had lived in Serbia, or lived in Croatia, and she had been raped during the Balkan War by several Serbian soldiers. And when I started talking about, rape, she started having flashbacks. And she said, while I was in your classroom, these guys were on top of me. And so she was really freaking out. She was having what we call post-traumatic stress. And so you have to sometimes deal with that. As a psychologist, when I talk about these very deep personal things, some people regress to their childhood. I once had a 32-year-old student start putting his thumb in his mouth. He started sucking his thumb. He was regressing that far back to his childhood. And those are the kinds of things that can happen when you start talking about, difficult interpersonal issues. People can start having these flashbacks and bad memories and bad traumas start to surface. And I have to deal with those every once in a while in my classroom, okay? There are people who are hecklers. A heckler is somebody that is that's usually not in a university, but I guess if you give a public speech, and politicians have this problem. Now, Mike was talking the other day about when Yanukovych went on the bridge the other day, nobody was heckling him. Everybody was very polite and civil to him. But trust me, when Barack Obama goes into a room, there's usually going to be 2 or 3 people in that room that hate him. And we do have freedom of speech in America, and there will be people who will get up and start making these very, very bad comments. All right? And sometimes they are asked to leave the room. Okay. All right.
We're waiting for you.
Yeah. Hey, you made it. You made it. Okay. You guys, I'm going to go. I do think listening is important. It's a very big part of public speaking is to get people to listen. But I don't think we have enough time to hit these particular slides. But that's another thing that we can talk about, the psychology of listening. Okay, and critical thinking, okay? Okay. And again, there's some good stuff here that we could talk about, but I'm going to kind of slip through. Svetlana, how much time do we have? Are we going to go to 8:30?
8:30.
So, okay, so we have about a half an hour left, okay? Okay. I'm going to keep moving through here. Okay, the psychology of the audience. I think you guys need to see your audience as intelligent people. Okay, we don't want to treat them as children. Okay, I usually treat my audience and my students as equals. My clients as equals. We're all on an equal level here. I'm not above you. Okay, I'm not going to put myself below you. Okay. We can't demand that anybody listens to us. We can't force people to listen to us. Try to make people comfortable. Manny, do you have a seat? Are you comfortable?
I think they give them.
Yeah. Is there enough air in the room? Are the windows open? Is everybody comfortable? Try to make people feel comfortable, okay? But if you make them feel too comfortable, they might go to sleep. All right? So you've got to be careful here. Usually at the beginning of my lectures, I usually have one student that is in charge of telling me when to shut up and have a break. Because a lot of psychology students and social work students are also smokers. And that's another thing that happens during my lectures, is you can see them getting agitated and nervous because they want a cigarette, okay? They should have been here last week. They might have stopped smoking, all right? So you've got to be conscious of what your audience wants and needs. So you tell them about breaks, okay? You tell them when the lecture is going to be over, when the next break is, and so they feel better that way. They're not worried about those things, okay? You take those worries and fears away, okay? All right. Okay. We talked about having fun. Be natural. Be yourself. I think that's the best way to present, is just to be who you are, okay? But what did Shakespeare say? The world is a stage, right? And we're all actors upon that stage. So somewhere in between being ourselves and being a social actor is where we got to go. And sometimes we're more of an actor, and sometimes we're more ourselves, okay? But you don't want to come across as being a phony or a fake, okay? We don't want to use complex language. How many words are there in the English language? How many words are there in the English language? Nope. You close. It's 427,000. No. There are over 1 million words in the English language. We just came up with our 1,000,000th word about a year ago. All right? Winston Churchill, in all of his speeches, used about 60,000 words. Okay? Use humor. Now, does anybody get that joke? Why are the Kleczko brothers such good joke tellers? They deliver good punchlines. Now, you laugh, okay? Is that a funny joke? Does that joke work? I guess not. All right? All right, that is what we call a play on words, or a pun, okay? And puns are very common in the English language because we have many words that are pronounced the same but spelled different. Your language is phonetic, and so you don't have that issue as much, right? Okay. Most difficult audience and times to give a speech. The most difficult audience would be people that are forced to listen to you. All right? Probably the best example would be when I go into prisons and talk to prisoners. Okay? They are forced to listen. Or when the courts force people to attend my classes. They're there because they're ordered to, and if they don't come, they go to jail. So they have a choice of going to jail or listening to me. And believe it or not, some people decide to go to jail, okay? I don't know what it is, but some people don't listen. Okay, after lunch is difficult. Why? Blood sugars, okay? And that's why in Spain people take long naps for 3 hours, okay? Because they're tired. They eat a lot of pasta, all right? And so giving a speech after lunch is problematic. On Fridays, when the weather is good, these are times that are very challenging for public speakers, okay? You guys got some more examples? Easiest audience are Asians. Why? This is a generalization. This is a very strong generalization. But when I've given... What?
They are nodding all the time.
Nodding?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
They're polite.
They're polite. Asians are extremely polite, and they would never challenge They never challenge me in my discussions, my lectures. It's considered rude and disrespectful to disagree with the presenter, okay? So Asians typically are very respectful and polite, but they usually don't ask a lot of questions, okay? Okay, analyzing the audience. Again, just as I'm a person-focused therapist, we have to be audience-focused when we're giving a speech. What does the audience want? What do they need? Okay? And we're looking for feedback all the time. How can I connect? How can I make you guys feel better? What is it that you need? And